So this video, it might upset the Doomsters. You know, the Doomsters are these people that believe that Klaus Schwab is superhuman, you know, and as the sheep farm guys call him, bitch tits, Jill Bates. You know, like, he's infallible. Like, you know, in a battle between you and Jill Bates, like, Jill Bates is always going to win. Like, he's superior to you. He's always going to get the best. He's always going to get one over you. Tony Blair, like Sir Keir Starlin. I saw him today on Twitter, dressed up in an. They do like dressing up, these people, because of course they are actors. And Sir Keir Starlin, whatever you want to call him, he had like some military jacket on. It had camouflage, so it was even better than what Zelensky used to wear. Do you remember him? Anyway, so the Doomsters, they think that these people are kind of like superhuman, infallible, they never make mistakes, that their plans are just going to roll right over us, and resistance is futile. We must give in to these people and like hold them in awe and not mock them at all, you know. Anyway, the Doomsters are those people, the people who are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. So they will not like what I have to say in this video. And I'm just going to reference some news stories. So the first one comes from an English language publication called the Helsinki Times. So I'm just going to flash up the headline now. Yeah, so according to the Helsinki Times, 95% of Finns are still using cash. So I'll read some of it out. The preference for using cash remains strong amongst Finns, with 95% of citizens considering it crucial for cash to continue being a valid payment method alongside digital alternatives. Yeah, so something for Brits to know is that here in Pori, there is no outlet at all that only accept. There are no. This is one of the things that shocked me when I went to Britain. There was quite a lot of places that refused to accept cash, which was a real, you know, what the thingamajig moment for me. The only time I've ever seen it in Finland in 3 years was that there was a bar in Tampere where they had like a little note on the door saying that they only accepted cash. But everywhere else, you know, cash is legal tender here, and it's quite common to see people paying with cash. Highlights the significance of cash as a secure and reliable payment option. So it says the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and concerns about supply security have affected the attitude of nearly 1/3 of Finns towards cash. Cash usage, especially in the context of supply security, is fundamentally tied to social responsibility. Not every Finn has access to bank cards or digital services. Historically, social upheavals often lead to an increased reliance on cash. The conflict in Ukraine underscored the importance of supply security, prompting Finns to consider multiple payment methods as a prudent approach. People in Finland perceive cash as a safe payment medium. Yeah, this is how I view it. I don't trust digital at all. I don't use digital payments methods. I didn't really use them before all of this nonsense happened. You know, I'm talking about the Divok. I always used to pay for things with cash. I never trusted contactless. You know, I just thought this is just too easy for people to hack. So I never signed up to it. I don't want any part of it. Yeah, so basically, yeah, 95% of citizens think that cash should continue, and I think this 1/3 is relating to people who believe it's important because of the risk of cyber attacks. Incidentally, I don't believe that that's likely at all. thinking about, with Klaus and stuff. I think if they are going to do it, it will be a very, very dangerous move for them because, if the digital infrastructure went down, well, they would lose their monitoring, surveillance, and control system, wouldn't they? So, that's one for the Doomsters to think about, who think that, Klaus and Jill Bates are superhuman. I also don't think that they've got the balls to do it because, I think they know that it would be quite difficult to know how the plebs would react if the internet went down, and the distraction of the sheeple would stop. If Netflix went off, then people might have to do a bit of thinking. And then also, it's highly likely if the internet went down, there would be supply disruptions. Maybe the power would go off. Maybe there would be the food in places like Guildford, would start to run out. And, these people, the people that I used to live amongst in Guildford, they're like, very well spoken but they're absolute ruthless. They're the most ruthless human beings I ever encountered. They would be at each other's throats before you could say Jack Robinson. These guys, they ain't gonna cooperate with each other in a situation of supply scarcity. They would be just at each other's throats. That's just how they are. The second article is one from the BBC, so it must be true. I'll show you that one now. Yeah, so as you can see, the headline says shopping with cash rises for the first time in a decade. And this was published about 3 weeks ago. I've been meaning to do a video about this, but there's been so many other things going on. So it says, cash use has grown for the first time in 10 years as shoppers keep a close eye on their budgets while prices rise, retailers have said. So there's some truth in that opening sentence, in that cash usage has been rising, but there's a blatant lie there, which is that people are doing that because people want to keep a closer eye on their budgets. I suggest it's symptomatic of people waking up to the Klaus's Great Reset and the digital gulag that Klaus is trying to bring in the name of net zero. And we all know that with people who watch this channel know all about programmable CBDs and carbon rationing. And so people have realised that, and as I say, even the people of Surrey, the people that maybe went along with the Britney Spears and the wearing your underpants on your head, they went along with it initially. But when it comes down to things like you're not allowed to have your Range Rover, or you're not allowed to fly to your villa in Tuscany, these people have been, or you, Les, even, these people, as I say, they're totally ruthless people, very, very they don't think beyond themselves at all. So they're not going to take one for the team to battle climate change. No way at all. I know somebody here in Finland, like some absolutely brain dead, member of the low-level enabler for the establishment, and she'll give it the big one about the climate and whatever. And she's one of these vegetarians that regularly eats meat, and so concerned about climate change that she's always on planes with her family to Instagrammable holiday locations. These people, they aren't going to accept having their behaviours constrained by programmable CBDs. So I would imagine that some of the people switching back to cash are some of these people too. So it goes on. The British Retail Consortium said 19% of purchases were made with notes and coins last year. So that's nearly 1 in 5, nearly 20%, echoing a report by banks showing a slight rebound. That's actually quite significant. I'll show you that first screenshot now. The second page starts off with shoppers' choices, and they they dropped the bombshell here that cash was used in 19% of transactions last year. So that would be 2022, according to retailers, up from 15% the previous year. So it's not completely clear actually what years they're referring to here. It might. What matters though is the change. So it's gone from 15% of transactions where cash was used up to 19%. Now, most people, if you ask somebody, like if something goes from 15% to 19%, if you ask somebody what's that as a percentage increase, a lot of people will say it's increased by 4%. 19 minus 15 equals 4%. But that's not actually how you work out a percentage change. To work out a percentage change, you look at the raw change, divide it by the original, and multiply by 100. So the raw change here it's gone up by 4 from 15 to 19. The original is 15, so 4 divided by 15 times 100, that comes to 26.7%. So it's gone up by cash usage in a space of a year has gone up by over a quarter. I'll say that again. Cash usage in a year went up by over 25%. Like, wow. Now, what's also interesting here is that I suspect that this data is referring, because there's always a time lag with collecting data, and at the time I'm making this, and certainly when this article was published, I think late November, early December, they didn't have time to collect 2023 figures. So this will be comparing 2021 to 2022. So back in 2021, there was probably a lot fewer people who were awake then compared to now. There'll be even more people who are probably using cash now than there were back in 2022. So if it went up by 25% between 21 and 22, just imagine how much it's going up now between 2022 and 2023. And certainly where I am in Finland, I'm noticing a lot more people using cash just when I'm out and about. I'm also noticing a lot of people, hardly anybody uses the self-checkouts here in supermarkets, hardly anybody. And people will queue 4 or 5 people deep rather than use the self-checkouts. So that's really good. But it's not that surprising, because I think, particularly out here in the countryside, you've got a lot of high IQ people who think independently for themselves, and there's a lot of people who've woken up. I know loads and loads of people here out in the sticks where I am in Merryporry who never even went to one Britney Spears and the Boosters concert. I've seen people wearing like quite provocative T-shirts that have been bigging up their own immune systems and stuff. I always stop by and shake people's hand and like engage people in conversation. So yeah, this isn't good for the Doomsters. A 25% increase in the usage of cash in a year. That their chances of getting through a programmable CBDC, not good. Because remember, these people are Satanists. And one of the golden rules that these Satanists have is that we have to call for our own demise. And a 25% increase in the usage of cash, it's heading in exactly the wrong direction that it needs to go in. They'll only be allowed to do this if we ask for it and consent to it. And it's not going in the right direction. And as I said a couple of videos ago, it's a one-way valve. The water can only move in one direction, and that is in the direction of more and more people waking up. People who are awake and know that what's going on, and democracy is a sham, it's corrupt, the institutions have been corrupted as well. These people are not going to go back and begin to trust the system again. There was another article published in the Ilta Sanomat, again very recently, which again was talking about how more and more Finns are using cash. So it's being covered in the mainstream media. I'll just show you the front page there. Now, what was interesting with this article was that it didn't allow readers' comments, but but as you know, as you read the end of an online newspaper column, they often give you links to other stories. So one of the links was to a story, again in the same newspaper, Ilta-Sanomat, which is one of the biggest ones in Finland, about how quite a famous cafe in the centre of Helsinki, the Fatsa Cafe. Fatsas are one of these like very famous traditional brands in Finland. And in this cafe in the centre of Helsinki, they're not been accepting cash, and people have been kicking off about it. So the article explains like all like BS about it's all because cash costs too much money to process and stuff. And anyway, what was interesting about this was that the comments were shown, and the comments that people wrote. Again, I'll flash these up. I'll flash these up now in Finnish. So I'll translate them for you. These are the most popular ones. So it says, first one, it says, even if there's only one person in Finland who uses cash, it's a valid means of payment according to the law and must be accepted, especially the elderly who prefer cash. The next comment is that the Fatsa Cafe should put a note in the window saying that they don't accept cash anymore. Preferably the note should be in many languages, so that everyone passing by can decide for themselves whether they want to go into the Fatsa Cafe. So thus, in the face of war, cash is the only reasonable method of payment. It cannot be traced. So again, this is like people recognising that we are in a war. There are people, we're fighting against people who are trying to enslave us. And they want to enslave us by tracking every single transaction through digital payment methods. And this person is quite rightly pointing out that what's great about cash is that it can't be traced. We can't be controlled if we make our purchases in cash. Yeah, so please keep on using cash. Next one says, you don't have to go to a place where you can't pay with money, right? So that's it revealing in itself. So this person believes that only cash is money. As we've been told, it's not necessary. You know, Finns are kind of, their humour is like just bone dry. So yeah. However, I assume that customers are more important to the cafe. I can always choose a cafe where I can pay with money. So this is like a big, yeah. Get lost, Fatsa. We're not gonna comply with our own enslavement. Refuse to shop in places that refuse to accept your cash. If Finns can do it, so can you. This next one is a corker. Again, you can just see it's just this dry, bone dry humour that comes through. So he says, so yes, we can see there is a great urgency for the final surveillance society, and a large part of Finnish citizens are unwilling to do so. Somebody else says, if money is not good enough as a payment, you can run cafes without me. Fatsa can be boycotted anyway. Import goods from abroad and greenwash them with the help of its brand to make them domestic. So yeah, there's Finns are very, very kind of nationalistic in that they'll quite happily pay a price premium for products that are being produced in Finland, creating jobs in Finland. So this person is having a moan about two things here. First of all, they're saying, you accept my cash or I'll go somewhere else. And he's also saying, don't try to pass off stuff that's made abroad, that's mostly been made abroad, that's just been assembled and then you stick the Made in Finland the logo. Some more bone dry humour here from this guy, says or gal. I will definitely skip these places. You know, these places like Fatsa Cafe that only want digital payment. I don't want to cause unnecessary work and cost to the entrepreneur. Because in the article, you see the FATSA company was saying, oh, we're doing this because cash is expensive to handle. In every town and parish, there's certainly an entrepreneur who does not overlook the customer, who for one reason or another pays with money, pays with cash, physical cash, real money. Somebody else just simply says cash is probably fine during power outages. So again, this will be somebody who's ahead of the game. Maybe they're trying to wake some people up here, normies who don't know about programmable CBDCs, but they do know that sometimes electronic payment systems break down and they're fragile. Somebody else says, fortunately, there are other cafes besides this one. All too often these days, payment transaction verifications get bogged down. Yeah, it does my head in when I'm behind some card zombie at the supermarket and they just, it just takes forever for the transaction to process. Cash is far faster than card. This one's a good one. Somebody says, well, if the FATSA cafe want to turn away children and the elderly who don't have a digital card because they're perceived as being extra hassle, then the FATSA cafe can miss out on their business. Yeah, so that's all I want to say today. So I think it's good news, that in the UK, there's been a 25% increase in a number of people using cash in a single calendar year, and I think that is amazing. And I think most people haven't clocked that because they just don't know how to work out percentages. I'm sounding like a maths teacher there, aren't I? But mind you, though, they don't teach like the sort of useful maths that people need to know. It's all like simultaneous equations and quadratics and just like boring stuff that just turns people off and makes them think that they can't do maths when they could do. It's just that they've not been taught it, and they've just not been taught it in a way that's interesting. And when people are bored by something, they just switch off. And maybe that's another coincidence theory that boring mathematical concepts that are just of no use really are just being taught to kids in school. If you want people to turn away from maths, not understand it, be ignorant of numbers, then you wouldn't really do too much different from what schools have been doing for the last 30 years. So that's all I want to say today. So God bless, and Hyvää joulua. And I'll also say Hyvää uutta vuotta, which means Happy New Year. So, anyway, God bless.